Hi there, Glocal Citizens. Welcome back to the podcast that inspires a borderless mindset around manifesting a new world. I am your host, Florence Adu, coming to you from Brooklyn. Oh, no, I said that last time. From Brooklyn. I'm just so excited, folks. It's been such a beautiful summer, and I just cannot complain. I just have to say that Brooklyn does not disappoint with the summer activities and the summer antics. You got a little bit of beach you can get to. You got a lot of just different things. And my guest today is kind of familiar with this. And so I'm so happy that it's so funny that when I'm looking at her background and mine, it's really interesting because we both have a little daylight, but it's hers is in the early part. Anyway, I'm not going to give away too much. Let's just get talking. So she is a wealth management and business development professional with extensive experience in retail banking and retail fashion. A self-starter who has excelled in senior roles in customer experience, relationship management, and strategy consulting in Hong Kong, New York, and Ghana. She has a proven track record of spearheading initiatives that strengthen the mission, brand, and financial position of enterprises, including those which are self-founded. A serial entrepreneur herself, she is the founder of Beam Bold, a vibrant resort wear brand focused on size inclusion and reducing textile waste. I love that. She is also founder of Global Identity Partners, a coaching and retail business consultancy. Her passion for travel has taken her to 76 countries across 6 continents. Again, a stamped and sealed Glocal Citizen, folks. So although she enjoys seeing much of the world, she has a strong connection to the African continent, having visited 26 countries and frequently travels there. That's where we met. As she puts it on her Audraverse platform, this probably explains why her ideal meal would be jollof rice wrapped in a roti with some dim sum on the side. Audra Gordon, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yes, welcome. I'm so happy to host you. So let's get started. The suspense is building with the audience. Where are you from? Where are you local? And what is your craft?
Yes, so I am from the Caribbean islands of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I've been an expat living in Hong Kong for almost 12 years. So wow. I would say, yeah. Yeah, so right now Hong Kong is home for me, but I feel local here in Hong Kong. Like I said, it's been 12 years since I've made this home. Also New York, Brooklyn, and St. Vincent, but I also feel a bit local in Ghana as well. I've spent quite a bit of time there, so I feel like at home when I come to Ghana. So I feel like there's so many places.
Which is good. I mean, that's the way I think of a generation of people who are borderless. You know, that's why I always say a borderless mindset, because that is what the world is nowadays. We are borderless.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. So what is your craft?
Yeah, so I am the founder of Beam Bold, and we are a vibrant fashion brand for women and girls. So I focus on size inclusion and reducing textile waste. So again, the focus is on, doing a lot of customization. So I'm diverting waste from the landfill, but creating pieces that are vibrant and just happy colors that evokes joy. So that's my brand, which is a career transition from banking, where I spent most of my career. And, took a career break and decided to follow my passion after a solo journey across Africa by road. So that's my journey. I traveled across Africa for 6 months, but I've been traveling across the continent since 2010. But 2017, I spent 6 months and traveled across mostly West Africa. I covered 3 Southern African countries during that trip. And that's where the brand idea was born. So my heart is in Africa. Yeah.
I really like that. So then how then do you find yourself, let me just go straight to the why, the where. So how do you find yourself living, working, and playing in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so as I started traveling around the world, I knew I wanted to have an international career. I never considered Hong Kong at all. I thought at that time I was with HSBC, it's a global bank. Our headquarters was in London. And I thought London would be a great transition. There's no language barrier. So again, I had a lot of exposure to expats coming into the US because I was a relationship manager and I got to do a lot of client onboarding and, help clients with their all of their financial life, really. As I started traveling, I felt like it's time for me to move abroad. I felt like I was single. It was time for me to move. And I reached out to this guy on LinkedIn. I had never met him before, but he was a Black American living in Hong Kong. And this is why representation matters, right? When I saw he added me on LinkedIn and I reached out to him in true Audra fashion. I said, hi, I would love to chat with you about how you transitioned from HSBC New York to Hong Kong. And he said, oh, you're in luck. I'm in New York for 2 weeks. Let's meet up. And
Oh,
it was just a
wow.
random, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Random connection. And I had a wedding in DC. He had to see his kids in Florida. So we didn't have a chance to meet in person, but we chatted on the phone and all the preconceived notions you have about language and culture. He said, oh, you'll be fine. Everyone speaks English. And, he had already lived in Tokyo for a couple of years and then he was in Hong Kong for about 4 years. And when I saw someone again who looks like me doing this, and I felt like if he can do it, I can do it too. And that's what inspired me. And I saw a role to manage the international team at the head office at HSBC. I posted for it, had one phone interview, and they offered me the opportunity to move to Hong Kong. So that was 2011. I had never been to Asia. I had already seen a bit of South America, a bit of Africa, a bit of Europe, but never ever Asia. And I packed up my entire life, furniture in tow, and showed up in Hong Kong in 2011. I knew from day one I'll be here for a very long time, in Hong Kong.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. From day one.
Yes, I went to networking events and met
Uh-huh.
so many great people. We're just globally minded. And I just felt like this is my place. I felt like, I love the weather. It was October. It's very humid in the summer. But because I hate winter so much, I
Yeah.
felt like I don't complain about, the summer heat here. But, October weather, the fall is perfect time to be in Hong Kong. And I just landed at the best time. I left New York where it was already cold in October and it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
summer here. I just love the weather, and I just met great people, and you had people. Just so much to do in Hong Kong, So I'll share a bit more about why I love Hong Kong. But you have hiking, you have beautiful beaches. There's so much to do, which most people don't think of Hong Kong. You think of a concrete jungle, but there's so much greenery. There's so much to do here, so I quite like it, and it's a hub to see the rest of Asia and the rest of the world as well. So. So that's why I chose it to become home.
I like it. I like it. Okay. So you've been there now almost 11 years, almost 12 years.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit more about your Hong Kong. So where exactly is your local Hong Kong? Like, what is that? And have you moved around? Like, are you like a true like Hong Kong? What are they? Hong Kongese? What are they?
Hong Konger, I guess.
Hong
Hong
Konger.
Konger.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I actually, I literally just moved 2 weeks ago. I had stayed in
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, I stayed in the same flat for 11 years, which everyone kept saying, why haven't you moved, But I
Uh-huh.
like One Chai. When I first moved to Hong Kong in 2011, a lot of expats were living in central or in mid-levels, and I just felt like that was more of a concrete jungle.
Yeah.
But I lived in One Chai because you had a bit of, blend with locals. And again, I wanted to have an immersive experience in Hong Kong and not just be with expats.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I chose, I'm still in the city center. So, it's 2 stops from the city center. So yeah, I lived there for, 11 and a half years. Yeah, now I'm staying in Causeway Bay at the moment. So.
What you call it? Causeway Bay?
Causeway Bay.
Causeway Bay. Oh, okay. And then the first place was Wan Chao?
One Chai.
Wan
It's just
Chai.
one stop over. It's like a 10-minute walk away. So yeah, it's like I said, it's city center still. It's on Hong Kong Islands. Most people don't realize Hong Kong, it's 200 and something islands, but obviously a lot of the expats live on Hong Kong Island, which is like the main island. And then you have Kowloon side, which is across, kind of like going to Brooklyn from Manhattan. And we have a lot of, smaller islands where you can, go to beaches and, just kind of hang out. So I quite like spending time at the beach and, I love camping. So I love going camping. I have proper camping gear and spend, sometimes like a few days at the beach, wake up to, the sounds of crashing waves. Like I just love, camping. Everyone kept saying, what are you doing at camping? And I said, I love it. I mean, it's very peaceful. I'm in nature. I really enjoy it. So.
Yeah, I do too, actually. I do too. It's I've never done beach camping. I've only done like mountain wilderness, but I can imagine the beach is as nice.
It is. We have really great photos or videos of like the sunrise. Like I really enjoyed it, So it's a great experience. Yeah.
Okay. So it is summer there now too, right?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
So we have the same seasons as the US. It stays warmer a bit later. So it will start getting a bit cooler in November. And we have very short winters. Winters are not that cold. Like, it's kind of spring weather. We probably have like 1 week where it drops a little bit, but the weather in Hong Kong is amazing. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So let's go back across the oceans
Yeah.
and let's get a sense of the Audra that is an island lady, and how growing up, you were in the islands and in Brooklyn and then kind of became this global person. Tell us more about your inspiration, where you're from, what your background's like.
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I was born in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and grew up there until I was 13. So, I grew up with my grandmother, who was a seamstress. And so I've always loved
Mm.
fashion, but I
Hmm.
guess that's where it came from. I grew up with lots of colorful fabric everywhere. There are lots of sketchbooks everywhere. And
Really?
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
my grandmother actually also had a sewing school where she taught the local ladies how to sew.
Hmm.
So I just grew up around that. So I've always loved fashion. Like I redesign I love things all the time. And I moved to New York at 13, and literally like a few years later, I started working for a few American fashion brands. So again, I've always loved
Oh,
fashion.
okay.
Yes, I've worked for brands like Kenneth Cole, Express, Our Pastel. So I did that while I was studying. So, in high school and university, I worked for a few brands. And then I've always loved fashion, but everyone makes you feel like fashion is not a career. They tell you need to be a lawyer, banker, doctor, choose a serious career path, right? I'm sure you, you can relate to this. And yes, I studied finance, business management and finance for my undergrad, and then, started a career in banking. So, started off with Chase Bank. I literally worked my way up from a teller to VP level in a couple of years in banking.
Wow.
So, yeah, I started with Chase.
Impressive.
Thank you. And then HSBC recruited me for their management training program. So I rotated across the different departments of the bank: credit, trade service, business lending. And because I truly love people, I love connecting, I became a relationship manager for high net worth clients. So again,
Mm.
I had clients all around the world. So obviously, a lot of them had moved to the US, but I had a lot of international clients as well. So I handled all aspects of their financial life. I was fully licensed. I handled investment, insurance, client onboarding, lending, mortgages, just about everything. So I was the point of contact for clients. So I did that, for almost 6 years. I started off in Park Slope in Brooklyn. My first year as a relationship manager, I was like, I think I finished the fourth out of like 35 RMs and got promoted to Manhattan. So I moved to Union Square and then to the Meatpacking District, and where I was promoted to a senior relationship manager and to a VP level, with the bank. So yeah, it was a really great experience for me. But I felt like after a while, I can close my eyes and do my job. Like I felt like I wasn't challenged. I was essentially in the same role, but kept
Yeah.
being moved to different markets. So I felt like, okay, it was time for change. Like what else? What's next, right? And that's when I started exploring international opportunities.
Okay. 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 So when you're being this banker, are you also side hustling a little bit? Like, is that kind of what was going on in the background?
Yeah, I've always been an entrepreneur. Like, I remember, even back in the Caribbean, we used to organize like runway show and fashion, events. Like since I was, much younger,
Yeah.
I've always been a connector and got people together.
Yeah.
And yes, I've done quite a bit. Like I rented out flats and I rented the rooms. Like I've done so many since I was a teenager. I've been doing this.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you've spent this career in banking. Now you've found yourself in Hong Kong. You've traveled around. So tell us a little bit more about. So you just seem very adventurous. And I think you too have a birthday coming up next week. Is
Yes,
it
I'm
next
a
week?
Leo. Yes, it's
Yes.
on the 15th of
Yeah.
August.
What's your day?
19th,
Okay. I am the 10th.
10th. Yes, yes. I always
Yes.
remember Leo
Yes,
as well.
exactly, exactly. So just kind of in that the mind of the Leo with the flare and the sun and all that wonderful just energy that we have. I'm curious about then moving to Hong Kong and kind of finding an entrepreneurial spirit there, because it's another country, right? It's easy to do it at home, right? In the US, et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of being an entrepreneur in another country, how does that happen and how does that work?
Right. So I took a career break. So I led the team here in Hong Kong for 2 years. We built an international team from scratch where we were looking after the expats in Hong Kong. So these are clients who have at least 1 million Hong Kong and above. So we handle, I led that team that handled client onboarding, mortgages, credit cards, all of that, all of those products. Like I led that team, but I did that for 2 years. And I've always wanted to do an MBA. I felt like at that point, I felt like I wanted to make an impact. I felt like, I was telling wealthy people what to do with their money, but I kept saying that I feel like there's more. I feel like I could be doing more. And then I started exploring an MBA. I explored, I met with the head of admissions at INSEAD. I met with the team here at HKUST. And I thought, you know what, maybe it's time for me to take a break and, pursue an MBA full time. And I applied. And initially I applied as a part-time applicant. And I thought I'll continue working and, I'll do the MBA on the side. And then when I got in, midway through application, I just thought, you know what? No, I will do a full-time program and take that break, right?
Okay.
And I did. And, and I only applied to one MBA program. I only applied to HKUST. I got in. And so I started there. That was 2013. And I did a 1 year in Hong Kong and I had the summer off. And, all of my classmates that were looking to, to apply at the big banks for internship. And I felt like I had already had a lot of banking experience and I'd already started traveling in Africa. I had done, quite a bit of countries in East Africa from Kenya, all the way down to South Africa, back in 2012. But at that point, I had done a course on China-Africa relations, and I felt like I wanted to understand how business is done in Africa. Everyone kept talking about the growth in Africa. And like I said, this is 2014. And I felt like it's time for me to, to go back to the continent. I felt like I could go back to the bank and, any of the banks and get a role. But I felt like I'm very curious about Africa and I want to go there and understand how business is done. So I saw a program on CNN on African Voices and I saw a Ghanaian lady and I just reached out to her again in true Audra fashion. I said, hi, I'm an MBA student. I would love to help you with business development, business strategy. I booked a one-way flight to Ghana, which they gave me such a tough time at the airport. They were like, you cannot have a one-way flight to Ghana. I said, guys, I'm not staying. Like, I'm just going for the summer, but I wanted to keep my options open, to travel across the continent before I headed back to Hong Kong. And so then like I said, I booked that one-way flight. I ended up not working with this lady because she got selected for the YALI program. So she went to DC.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, I came there and, networked and, met a few people and, worked for a couple of companies while I was there and then traveled around the region. Like I traveled to Senegal and then to Ethiopia on my way back. And then I exchanged at London Business School. So I was at LBS for half a year. So I have alumni status from both universities.
Nice.
And came back to Hong Kong. And 2 days after graduation, I went back to Africa. I felt like, my heart is on the continent. I need to figure out what can I do between Asia and Africa. And I traveled, at that point I did Nigeria. I went to Kenya again. And again, just trying to connect with people on the continent and figure out, what can I do in Asia that benefits the continent? And that's when I set up my first business. And so that was Global Identity Partners. So I was helping a lot of clients with sourcing products from China, just connecting suppliers with businesses on the continent. So I was doing that for a while, but it was very time consuming. And because it was me by myself doing it, I was spending a lot of time doing research and a lot of the projects may not come to fruition. And again, it was me doing free research. I felt like I needed to either change the business model. And that's what led me to going back to the continent and spending 6 months, traveling across the continent.
Okay. Got it. So I mean, you bring up a very good point in terms of how to develop business to be profitable in Africa, right? Like, because I think that is one of the challenges that many people who are trying to find a new home in Africa face. It's like, well, how do I actually come there and make money? So,
Yes.
so you are kind of in that value chain of like really trying to kind of figure that out. So in your working and analyzing businesses, what would you say was kind of the number one challenge that these companies were facing and trying to build themselves and get started or grow?
Yes, I met with quite a few companies and one of the challenge, obviously, a lot of production was done out of the continent, right? So trying to source, products, whether from China or other countries, just having the right connection, being able to facilitate trade, like in terms of, banking transaction, transmitting, currency across borders.
Right, just the functions.
Exactly. So these are things I was able to facilitate in terms of, helping them be that middleman to help them, find a supplier, vet the process to make sure that, these are legitimate companies. Like I heard so many stories about, sending payments and never receiving their products and, stuff like that. So I wanted to be that middleman between that will help, facilitate the process for them. And like I said, I did that for a little while. And then I came back and I said, you know what, I need to find, companies who really need someone on the ground and, have the assets to be able to, to hire me to do that. And that's why I came back. And end of 2016, I came back and I spent 6 months and I traveled across, mostly West Africa. I covered also Angola, Namibia, and Botswana as well during that trip. I covered most of West Africa solo and by road, and I stayed with local families every step along the way. I covered 15 new countries while I was there.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was a life-changing journey, and that's where my brand idea was born. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, first of all, how did you determine that the road was the best way to make this journey?
Oh, right.
Was it? Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, so it's a big challenge in Africa. Connectivity between the countries by flight, one is very expensive, and some places you have to travel to the Middle East and to come back to countries in Africa. So I felt like, you know what, like why not go by road? And so I learned about the set class, like the cars that you share. And I learned, so again, I took vans, buses. I even took a motorbike with my suitcase on the back from Guinea to Guinea-Bissau for 7 hours. And again.
What? 7 hours on a motorbike?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's incredible.
It was a journey. Yeah, but I knew local people in every country. Everyone kept saying, how do you know so many people? But I'm a connector. I love keeping in touch with people. Yeah. And I think of the countries I wanted to go to. And I think, who do I know there? Or who do I know who's from there? My friends would say, oh, my mom is there. My aunt is here. You can stay with us. I'm happy to host you. And yeah, so every country I went to, I got to see it from a local perspective. Right. So like I said, it was truly, truly a life-changing journey. And like I said, in Ghana, that's where the brand idea was born. I met a girl who was traveling in Ghana, and I said to her, I really love your dress. She was wearing a beautiful yellow dress. And she said to me, I own nothing black. I said, what do you mean? She said, there's nothing black in my wardrobe. Not a black shoe, not a black purse, absolutely nothing black. And I said to her, I really love color. I've always, I feel like I come alive in color. But when I was in banking, I felt like I had to conform to the corporate world. That it was black or gray or navy. And I just said, someone should create a brand for people who love color. And again, I know there are brands like Benetton that, centered around color, but I felt like it wasn't what I imagined in terms of like very flowy pieces for holiday. And I just thought someone should do it, but I didn't know then that someone would be me, right?
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so you got your inspiration. So you take this epic road trip, and you've gone to all of these countries that have these really rich textile histories. So I'm assuming that was a little bit of kind of, in your thinking, like, how do I think about which textiles to use? How do I think about, the dyeing, all those techniques, right? And so you're coming from banking, but you have fashion in your background. So then you get back to Hong Kong and you're thinking, okay, I'm by the factory to the world. So you're not a designer, but you definitely are stylish. So then so the idea came to you, how did you make manifest?
Right. So as I traveled throughout the continent, I kept buying fabric, and I was just making a few things. I find local tailors. Like I remember in the Gambia, I met a lady, and she was a seamstress. And again, every country, I would just buy fabric and say, "Oh, I have an idea. Could you make this for me?" Right. And then I started posting a bit more because I felt like that journey. I didn't post much because I wanted to have an experience where I can have conversation, not feel like I'm intruding in someone's face with a camera. I wanted to have private conversations. So I didn't really share much. And then a lot of people kept saying, oh, you're doing a disservice because you're not really sharing your journey, across the continent. And again, I want more people to travel to Africa. And I felt like the first step in investing in the continent is traveling there and connecting with the people and understanding what the gaps are, how to, make an impact on the continent. So I felt like, okay, I've been, seeing so many countries, and I want to, inspire more people to come to the continent. Why not share a bit more of the journey? So that's when I started posting a bit more. And then people started responding to the pieces I will share. And I came back and I just thought, you know what? Let me explore this. So I went into Sham Shui Po, which is the garment district of Hong Kong. And I just started, feeling different fabric. I knew I wanted, again, I like the vibrancy of the Ankara, but for me, I wanted something a bit more flowy and, with a softer touch. So I was trying to figure out, what fabric I would use. And I met a lady in the market. I said, oh, can you help me translate? Because in that area, some of the local shop owners didn't really speak much English. So I wanted her to help me. And we started chatting. I said, oh, I'm thinking of starting a brand. Do you know a factory I can reach out to? And she gave me one contact in China. And I showed up there literally with a translation app because I don't speak Mandarin at all. Like I can say Cantonese phrases because in Hong Kong, the language is Cantonese is mostly spoken here. Like a lot of people speak Mandarin as well, but in mainland, it's Mandarin, right? So I literally showed up with a translation app. I got on a train to North Shenzhen and I showed up at a factory and I had 4 pieces of fabric. I knew from day one I wanted, these are the brand colors. And I met this guy and, he was running a factory there, Stanley. And he said, oh, where are you from? I said, I'm from the Caribbean. He said, I lived in the Caribbean. I set up a denim factory in Haiti 30 years ago.
What?
Exactly. I was so
Wow.
shocked. Exactly. And he said he met his ex-wife there. They're still in Dominican Republic. And, we totally connected. And, Stanley believed in me from day one. I said, this is my idea. I'm looking to, develop some original prints. And, so this is what I'm looking to do. And he said, oh, I'm happy to help you. So this is how my first production was done there with Stanley. And, so he's a huge part of the brand journey, which, most recently he passed, from cancer. And so the next collection would be called the Stanley collection because, he was such a huge part of the brand, but like I said, Stanley held my hand throughout the entire process. And I came back to Hong Kong. I had a pop-up event. So this is November 2018. I launched, the brand. So from day one, I knew I wanted to be size and height inclusive, but I didn't have a lot of knowledge around the impact of textile waste. Because of my sourcing days, a friend in Ghana connected me with one of her friends in South Africa who was doing a project on textile waste in Africa. And again, I was already working on the brand, but I hadn't launched yet. I was still in the research phases of figuring out, fabric and all that stuff. And I had this conversation with this girl and she said, oh, can you help us source machinery to deal with the textile waste problem in Africa? So again, I knew there was a lot of waste because of fast fashion, but I didn't realize how large, the impact. And I started doing more research on the East African countries that came together to ban secondhand clothes. Because again, a lot of people think that, they're donating clothing and it goes to people who need it, but a majority of this get sold in bales and the people on the continent don't know what they're getting until they open the bales. And more than 40-50% of it goes to the landfill, right? And African countries cannot export their products if they don't accept the secondhand clothes, which is not their waste, right? So this triggered me. So I felt like I loved the continent. I stayed with local families every step along the way. And I felt like they were dumping this clothing in my backyard. So I said, how do I make a difference? How do I design so the pieces don't end up in the landfill? So this was my motivation from day one. I felt like, okay, how do I, design with this in mind? So you increase the life of the pieces, but instead of mass producing or having, a lot of inventory, I thought if I can customize pieces where it's personalized to you, it's your perfect size, your perfect length, but it also allows you to adjust it if you gain or lose weight. I thought this was one way of diverting the clothing waste from going to Africa. And that's what I did,
Nice. Yeah. I think we have a kinship in that regard because so when I was deciding to go to Africa and live in Ghana, the first thing I did was start to kind of explore what can I do that's a small business, just quick. And at the time I had a ton of friends who were having kids. So I was looking at the little dresses in the markets and, they were cheapy or whatever. I was like, these are cute though. I could actually, create a brand. So I did create a brand called Beck and B. Which means, so it's Beck and B. It's dresses that grow with your girl. And so similarly, the idea is that this is a dress. So basically the bodice is the elastic kind of bodice, my favorite type of dress from my childhood. And then different sleeves, like, straps, ties, that kind of thing, and different skirts. So that with the same concept of like, kids grow so fast, you'll buy something and they can't wear it. So this is a dress that could literally take you from being an infant at least to 3 and then from there on. So I feel you on that. And I kudos to you for, making this custom idea for adults because I was like, well, what do you have for adults? I'm like, that's not me. I just want the little girls to be happy, that's it. And so, and it warmed my heart to see like girls put the dresses on and spin.
Yes.
And that's one of the features of of your dresses. They're so flowy, they're spin. And so yeah, I love that.
So nice to see the kids,
Yeah. Yeah. So you've had some measure of success because you actually were at Fashion Week here in New York, right?
Yes, yes. So shortly after
Uh-huh.
launching the collection, I
Yeah.
received an email. We love your brand. Can you come to New York for Fashion Week? So I did the runway with Flying Solo, which was a collective of independent designers.
Nice.
And that was February 2019. I showcased in New York. I got a few magazine features. Came back and I launched the kids collection because I initially started off with just adults. And then a lot of moms started asking, can you make matching
Mm-hmm.
pieces for kids? And, I thought, okay, let's explore this. And then so I'm doing a matching mommy and me, but again, all vibrant colors. And the premise is that you can always mix and match the prints with the colors. So whatever prints that I
Ah,
introduce, it
uh-huh.
always will have an aspect of, blue, green, yellow, orange, which are the brand colors. And I've added
Yes.
white recently. Yeah. So the goal is to have colors that you can, interchange with each other. Even the solid colors. A lot of people are asking, can you do pink? Can you do purple? I said, no. I said, we're sticking to the brand colors.
Right.
That's one way of reducing waste, right? Because you don't
Yeah,
have any
it's
stock
true.
as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's one
yeah.
of the reasons why I've done that. So
And
yeah, so it
and
came
between those
back.
colors, everyone can find a color that works for
Exactly.
them.
Exactly for every skin tone, right? So that's what the features. And then I do petite, short, regular, and tall. So based
Okay.
on your heights, we have off the rack pieces in those
Ah,
heights. So
okay.
petite is 5 feet, short is 5'4", regular is 5'8", and tall is 6 feet. But if you're in between, within 2 weeks we can customize based on your height and size and everything. We have adjustable elastic on the skirt, so the waistband is flat on the front, but the back has the adjustable elastic. I don't know if you know the kids elastic that has the buttonholes all the way
Yep.
across. So you can actually adjust it. So I have to customize that for adults as well. So it's in the
Nice.
back of the waistband. So everything goes up to the next size. So this is my goal, is to inspire more people to buy less, buy better quality products that last for a long time, instead of having things that you're discarding and goes to the landfills, especially in Africa. My goal is to divert waste from there.
Right, nice. So while we're on that topic, where can we find Beam Bold?
Yeah, so you can find me at beambold.com. So that's beam as in beam of light, BEAM, and bold. So it's a play on being bold. Like, what are you wearing? It's beam bold. So it's beambold.com. And then you can find us on Instagram at beam_bold.
Okay. Okay, nice. So I probably should have asked this when you're talking about all these world travels, but I was so intrigued with like the story of the fashion. So let's take a step back and I want to ask you about Glocal Speak. So we want to hear what you hear. So I ask you to share a word, a phrase, or a saying that is a meaningful part of your local experiences and why or how you come to value it as Glocal Speak.
Yeah, so Ngoisai, it means thank you very much, which the locals in Cantonese. So the locals, they, when I speak, they're so shocked because they claim my pronunciation is really, really good.
It sounded
But
really good. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, no, but I express gratitude, and with everything I do. When I travel with thank you cards because I always meet kind strangers who go above and beyond to extend their self. And yeah, so gratitude is something I express all the time. So when I learn Ngoy, thank you, it's thank you very much. So it's not just thank you. People say Ngoy, which is just thank you, but Ngoy Sai is thank you very much. And so I say that quite often, and I say moisi a lot, which, it's like you say excuse me or sorry, but I think because in Caribbean culture, we apologize a lot. So I say that quite often, moisi, moisi, like
Mm.
it's also excuse me, but it's,
Sure.
it's saying like, sorry, yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. So have you taken Cantonese lessons? Do you speak
I
a little
have.
bit? Yeah?
I have. Like I said, I can just say a few words and
Uh-huh.
phrases, but most people speak English. Again, it was a British colony until 1997. So you really don't need Cantonese, but it's good to, to learn, certain things, when I go to the market, like ordering like, seafood because I don't eat meat anymore. So yeah, it's just be able to, to ask for certain things, and especially in certain places where they don't really speak a lot of English, it's good to know a few words. But you can totally get by without speaking Cantonese at all.
Right, right,
So
right.
mhm,
It's always
mhm,
nice to know a few words. So that, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, they get really excited. The locals get so
Yes.
excited, especially when I say a few words and they claim my pronunciation is really good, and then they start speaking to me in
And
Cantonese, and I said,
then
"Oh, I'm just like seriously, seriously." It's just like only a little, like Yeah, it's
but they
so
were happy for
amazing.
the taste.
Yes, they are. They get so excited. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's awesome. So say it again.
Ngoisai.
Ngoisai.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you did
I
a
think
really
I
good
could.
job.
Well, so my
Yeah,
thing is I like to sing song every language, right? So if there's not a sing song in it, then I think I have a little bit of a challenge. So like anything that's sing songy, I can
yes.
go
Yeah, you have a good ear. That's
Right,
wonderful.
right, exactly. Okay, so we're talking about fashion and what that business is like and getting to production. So now you're in this business now for a few years and then COVID happens. So tell us about your experience because you were actually in Asia, you know, closer and I remember there were a lot of lockdowns for a long time. So tell us how it was being an expat, being in Asia at the time, I mean, you know, Hong Kong, China, that region for that time, and then coming out of it. How was that experience?
So I had returned to Hong Kong in January 2020. I was in Ghana for the year of return, so I did a runway show there. Came
Oh,
back,
okay.
and yeah, I did Fashion Connect Africa, which was a show organized, I think, by the government for the year of return. And so it was really amazing because it was a full circle moment because that's where the brand idea was born. And to have my first runway show on the continent being in Ghana, it was really fulfilling. And so I came back, and literally within a week of coming back from Ghana,
Lockdown.
that was around Chinese New Year. Yeah, I was supposed to head back to China. And then this is when, the news started breaking about COVID. And so I couldn't go back to China and everything shut down. But I thought, okay, what could we do from Hong Kong? So at the time, the factory that I was working with, it was a new factory. The founders were based in Hong Kong,
Okay.
but it was a factory in Dongguan. I had met with them right before going to Ghana because the problem I had, a lot of my production was done in a sample room because I'm doing a lot of
Mm, yep.
customization.
Yep.
Customers place an order within 2 weeks, I customize it, right? So instead of using larger factories, I use very small production houses, right? And because of that, I had quite a bit of orders before I left for Ghana. I had quite a few pop-ups, and then I needed to produce the pieces for the models. So again, I had about 80 pieces that needed to be done within 3 weeks because I was traveling to Ghana. So the sample room just didn't have the capacity to produce it. So someone recommended a new factory in Dongguan. I went there, I met with them. This was around the time of the protest. So we couldn't get product
Mm,
shipped into Hong Kong. I had to keep crossing the border almost every day to collect my
mm.
packages and then ship them out. So it was a lot happening, but you thought you go there, you build relationships with people, eat with them, and then you wouldn't think that, they would do something like this. But what happened is I lost everything. I had used that new factory and they stole all of my fabric, like 500 meters of fabric. Everything was gone. Yeah. So I reached out to them saying,
Wow.
yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. So 2020 was the toughest year of my life. Everyone kept saying, how are you still smiling? I literally rented out my bedrooms. I said, whatever it takes to start again, I have to find a way to start over. They said to me, we don't know what happened to your fabric. I think it's finished. I sent them all the behind the scenes photos of all the fabric. I literally had just bought fabric before I left for Ghana. And they said,
Wow.
eventually they blocked me. So it was 2020 was the toughest
Wow.
year of my life. But when you find something that you're passionate about,
Yeah.
giving up is not an option.
Yeah.
I had clients who reached out to me. One lady, she said, my husband lost his job. We're moving back to Italy, but can I have a matching rainbow skirt for my daughter before I go? So these are customers that make me know that giving
Yeah.
up is not an option. And I was very transparent with my clients.
Yeah.
I let them know the good thing is I had one roll of each of the printed fabric at the fabric suppliers. At least I had the prints, but I had no more solid colors.
Sure.
And when clients will make an order, I was very transparent. I said, okay, we have the prints, but no solid. And this is what transpired. And they were like, we're happy to wait. So many
Oh,
customers
yeah.
pre-ordered and they
Yeah.
understood. And that's how I got things up and running again. It was, like I said, a tough journey. And the borders were closed between Hong Kong and China for 3 years. I literally went back for the first time in March of 2023. We hadn't, been able to go at all for 3 years. So that's why, like I said, they took advantage of that. So the bottleneck for me was now that a lot of the smaller factories closed down, I had no one to handle production. I even tried to move production to Hong Kong. It just didn't work out. The price
Mm,
point just didn't work because, again, I wanted to keep the price point reasonable.
sure.
I've now hired staff in China. So I have a full-time sewer, I have a pattern maker in China.
Hmm.
So I can keep the production going and continue with customization and work on product development and all that stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I needed to get back there and, to look after my staff and figure out, facilities and stuff like that and, create new partnerships with new suppliers and stuff like that. So again, it's so much happening, but it's been me by myself running the entire operations. Like I'm handling production, quality control, design, social media. So I've had a few interns who came in to help. But I'm now at the point where a lot of people are reaching out to me, asking, I guess they're looking to invest in the brand. I haven't taken on any investment at all. So I'm still, trying to figure out what's the way forward with that and what that would look like now that I'm looking to go into new markets. Like I've done a pop-up in Singapore, which went really, really well. And I think Singapore is a great market as well. It's warm all year round there. So I'm going back in November for a huge event called Boutiques Fair. They have it twice a year. So again, in the next, trying to get into Australia. So moving across, globally, trying to find stockers in the US as well. So it's a lot to be done, but just working on a strategy for distribution globally at the moment.
Right. So do you find that having more of a boutique brand is to your advantage now in particular?
Yes, I think because I can give the one-on-one attention or the service to the clients. Again, service means a lot to me. I love connecting with clients. Like one of my favorite things to do is pop-ups, right? And again, if we can scale, and we do have the ability to scale because a lot of pieces are adjustable. Again, and we have so many options. So there's a company in Europe who recently reached out to me and said, "Oh, we're a distributor. We love your brand. We can help you distribute your products in Europe." But again, for me, it's finding the right partners to be able to scale. But I think, working with just doing pop-ups at the moment, I'm now trying to have like a showroom where people can actually come and see all the styles, and I can take their measurements and, where, they know what style suits their body shape and stuff like that. So this touch point is very important, but I felt like, I wanted to kind of take the steps to be able to understand my clients, because again, my ideal clients are girl moms. So which are women who have kids, girls who are, under 7, I would say. That's when you do the matching pieces. And then women who face challenges finding their size and length, right? So whether society tell you you're too tall, you're too short, you're too curvy, these are my ideal customers. Yes, we have, pieces for regular, people who are average heights or, sizes. But for me, my ideal customers are those people whose pain points, we cannot find clothing. We cannot walk into a shop and find pieces that I love. And, that was one of my pain points as well. Like I'm 5'9", and finding a maxi dress in Asia has been a challenge. And I wanted women to, to be able to solve that, and that's one of the reasons why I launched Being Bold.
Yeah, I would say, what I love about being in Ghana and, when I come back, like most of my wardrobe is custom.
Yes.
And even now, most of my wardrobe, because I live this endless summer lifestyle. So most of my dresses, I come and people are like, "Oh, that's great. Where'd you get it's made for me."
Yes,
So the
exactly.
idea of having custom clothing is also just this awesome experience because you just feel so unique. And I took it for granted because my mother also, part of my inspiration for being in fashion was my mother. She would sew. So she sewed dresses and we had the matchy dresses
Nice.
growing up. And she, had a whole sewing room and all that stuff. And so just the culture of being in that kind of environment just kind of is just empowering, I think. So especially for women. So I think you're definitely on the right track. And for little girls to experience that, I think that was part of what was stuck in me was that as a little girl, I had dresses that were made just for me as well.
Right.
So yeah. So when you think about the next 5 years for you, and then I'll get to my mindset hack, the next 5 years for you, what does it look like for Being Bold? What does it look like for your global partners?
Yes. So the goal is to expand globally for the brand, to hire a few people to be able to help me with social media, strategy. So again, I have a lot of experience in so many different areas, but I felt like I can focus more on the storytelling for the brand and partnerships and business development and have other people help with different aspects of the business, right? So I don't need to wear every single hat in the business. So again, like I said, I've been approached by quite a few people. It's been quite overwhelming asking about, investing in the brand. So I'm now creating a pitch deck, trying to figure out the best the right fit in terms of investors to be able to scale and, get into global markets. So that's what I'm exploring at the moment. And as I mentioned, expanding into Singapore, we have one full-time stocker there, but finding, additional locations. We're going live on a sustainable fashion platform called Circular. It's an Australian based platform. I think the founder was based in Hong Kong for a while, and they've raised capital in Silicon Valley. So they have quite a bit of following in California as well. So it'll be great to partner with other brands that are, doing really great things and focus on sustainability, right? We've just launched on a platform called Something Good in Singapore as well. So that's, focus on fashion and jewelry. And yeah, so the goal is to, scale, continue getting feedback. I'm looking for artists to collaborate with on new prints. Specifically, I would love, African or Caribbean artists to help me design new prints that incorporate the brand colors, because I do digital printing for all of the fabric. There's less water and energy waste. So it was important, to have the right partners to collaborate, because I want the pieces to feel like wearable art, right? It's just when you walk, you glide, and you just see the flowy pieces, and, so just finding the right partners to collaborate with to design prints, and looking at taking on some interns at the moment as well. Whether, social media, journalism students, because I definitely would love to write more about the impact of textile waste and share the brand journey. So, finding students who need the work experience and where I can mentor them and, give them the opportunity to share more and, showcase their skills as well. So that's where I am at the moment.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. So I'm curious about the textile waste piece of the puzzle, and what would be your biggest wish for fashion brands in that space and in that thought?
Right. So I think brands in general should buy, to produce less, right? Because again, they produce in huge quantities because the cost is much lower. But no one's really thinking about the impact of the people who are actually on the continent who have to deal with, the clothing going to the landfill or ended up in beaches, right? So I want brands to, to focus on, natural fibers and, not following trends. For me, I design very timeless design that's versatile and, can be styled many different ways. And I think if brands, focus on, creating quality products and not just what's on trend and, how do I produce it for the lowest cost, where you're just thinking about your margin and not thinking about the impact to the planet. I think this is one of the messages I want to send. Is like, how do we buy better quality? But, the onus is on the brands to produce better quality. But if we're not buying it, then, they will stop producing it, right? So
Right, right. So I guess it's a truly economic challenge. I guess the idea of the fast fashion came because, similar to fast food, like what people can afford is what they're gonna mass produce. And so I guess inequality is at the core of all of this still.
absolutely, absolutely. But I always say, if you save and buy one thing that lasts for a long time, instead of buying multiple things because it's on trend and you can afford it at this price point, I think
Right.
that's the mindset shift, right?
Sure.
Do I have something that lasts? Because my maxi skirts, you can wear this 10, 20 years from now. You can adjust the size if your weight changes, and you have something that works, right? So this is the goal, to really change the mindset. Right.
I like that you brought that up because then I want to ask you about your own mindset hack. So I asked you to share your favorite and innovative mindset hack. Now, this is one that you practice, one that you know of, or one that you can imagine.
Right. So I've created a love method because I want to inspire more people to do what they love and do it with love.
Ah,
And
I like
and
that.
so love is an acronym that I've created. So L means leverage your network. If you have an idea or something you want to start, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so many people who've done it before you. Who is in your network who you can reach out to? Friends of friends, family of friends, who can help you reduce the amount of steps to get to that place, right? So you start with your network. Always overcome the fear. Too many people are too afraid to get started, or other people project their fear onto you, so you just don't get started. So you have to overcome that fear to get started. And V is validate the idea, which is starting small. I literally launched the brand with 5 items and iterated, right? A lot of expats wanted larger sizes, and the locals were still too short and added the petite length. So again, do you have a viable product that people actually want to buy? Right? So keep starting small. And E is expand through partnership. how do we create strategic partnership where we both can benefit and we both can scale, and grow together. So that's my love method. I said, do what you love, but do it with love.
I
Right?
love that. And I love love. Love is one of my favorite words
Yes,
and my favorite feeling. It's just,
yes.
it's just that thing. So wow, I like that. The love method.
Thank you.
Hey, leverage, overcome, validate,
Hmm.
and expand through partnership.
Hmm.
Okay, nice. Nice. So we've talked a little bit about what you do in your leisure, camping and kind of getting around town and travel. But aside from the beam bold Audra, who is
Yes.
Audra when she's not working? So we like to ask a few questions about what do you do in your time? So are you a reader? Are you a watcher? Are you a listener? And so what are some of your favorite reads, watches, or listens?
Yes, I'm a avid reader, but right now I've been listening to more audiobooks.
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
huge fan of Audible.
Yeah, me
And
too. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't really watch, I don't really have the time to watch any series or anything like that. But one of my favorite books is The Big Leap.
The Big Leap.
Yeah. It's by Gay Hendricks. And it
Mm-hmm.
really tells you to focus on your areas of genius, right? So it talks about, you have areas of incompetence, areas of competence, and areas of excellence. So it's really honing in on, the areas where, you excel, right? Where you come alive, like, so focus on those areas instead of, there's so many people in jobs that they hate, right? And everyone tell me I'm the advocate for everyone quitting their jobs, but no, it's like, do you find something, what do you find enjoyable that it doesn't feel like work, right? You can do this all day long and it doesn't feel like work. So it's really focusing on those areas. And even if you have a 9 to 5, like, do you get up early, 2 hours a day, or, go to bed a bit later so you can focus on something you're really passionate about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I really love the book. It really, teaches you about the different areas and really understanding yourself, right? What do you enjoy? Right. So I really love that book,
Nice. The Big Leap.
The
Okay.
Big Leap. Yeah.
So are you a multiple listener at a time or
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I run out of credits all the time. Like now I have a tab on an Instagram where people recommend books, and I have a book
Ah.
saved. So when I save, I have different tabs, and one of them is books. And when people recommend books,
Okay.
I'm always putting them into my save folders
Okay.
and go back and purchase them. But yeah, I read Building a Story brand recently, and I love storytelling, and I feel like it's such a natural thing that I do. Like I meet people, I connect, and I want to share stories. And I'm now focusing on, sharing a bit more of the brand story, telling it, because I felt like I've had my head down, really keeping the brand alive. And I feel like time for me to start, sharing more of the brand journey and, trying to inspire more people. So, amplify my voice about the things I'm passionate about. So that's one of the books that I like as well, is Building a Story brand.
Nice. Those are great recommendations, particularly for our entrepreneurs in the audience. Wow. This has been so much fun. I feel like it's just like flown by, right?
I know. This is it.
Yeah. So
Okay.
before we go, do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience?
I would love to, inspire more people to find connection. I found, like, even, doing COVID, a lot of us were, quite isolated. But for me, I got on Zoom calls. I would send everyone a link, and, I love connecting. And I find, so reach out to people who are in, similar industry, or, people who are doing something that you aspire to do, and don't be afraid. For me, the worst can happen, someone doesn't respond, but it's okay. You reach out to someone else. So like I said, a lot of what I've done could not have been possible if I didn't have the courage to reach out to someone. And I want to inspire more people to send a message, send a DM. People reach out to me all the time, and I respond, and I get on a call. And, so I want you not to be afraid to connect. I think there's a lot you can learn from other people's journey, and, to get inspiration, but also to help you along with your journey as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I would say also there's that fear, because that's part of that fear, right? So people don't reach out and they don't connect. And I think that to overcome the fear of rejection, because sometimes it's just not the right timing for certain people, because people will not respond. So not to take quote unquote rejection personally, right? Because it's not about you. It's just basically, maybe it's just not the right time, but that, not to let that discourage the idea of connecting. Yeah, I think that's a great tip. I wanted to just ask you, In all of your travels in Africa, I know you love Ghana. But what's a great takeaway that you would want to share about traveling through the regions, like, from west to east to south?
Right. So, like I said, Africa is my favorite continent. I love, the people I meet. I love the food, the culture. I quite like, just being there. I feel at peace at home on the continent. I want people, especially, well, a lot of people, even who are living on the continent, haven't explored the continent, right? And again, you have all these barriers that we talked about, the challenges of, flying, throughout the continent. But, just get on a bus. Like when, I wrote on Audra and I was writing a bit about my Africa journey. Someone wrote to me and said, because I read your blog, I had never left my country before. And I got on a bus and I went to the neighboring country. So again, it doesn't have to be luxurious. You get in a trotro, you get in a step plus, get on the bus and, you go and explore the continent. I feel like the continent has so much to offer and we just need to, have the courage to go and explore and to appreciate it, right? Like you meet people that I've never seen another country in Africa, or I'm from this particular country, but I haven't gone, throughout the region. And I want to inspire you to see it's such a beautiful continent. And, if we all come together, explore it, and then, see how do we make an impact in countries that, that needs it.
How do we reclaim ourselves, basically?
Yeah.
If we don't know ourselves, we can't reclaim ourselves. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Audra, this has been so wonderful. Thank you for joining me. And I wish you all the best on your day that's just starting.
Yes, it's 9 a.m. here in Hong Kong.
Right. So yeah. Night has fallen in New York. So I love this. I love the 12-hour, the day night. It's just such a treat. So this is great. I would love to come and see you in Hong Kong, but I think I'm probably going to see you in Ghana before then.
Probably. Yes.
Yeah.
I hope to meet you soon. And, I'm happy to host you when you come to Hong Kong.
Oh, yay. Thank you. So before we sign off, you already mentioned Being Bold. Where else can we find you? Is there any other socials that you want to share?
Yes. So my personal social is Audraverse, which is Audra's Universe. So AUDRAVERSE. So I have my blog is Audraverse, and also my Instagram is Audraverse, and then the brand is Beam Bold, Beam_Bold.
Nice. Nice. All right, Glocal Citizens, this has been another episode of the podcast. You can catch us Tuesdays with new episodes at glocalcitizenspod.com or wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify. Leave us a review. It helps others find great content on the internet. And until next time, bye for now.